Hello, welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here. Today, we are doing a Play This, Not That on...
Yes, with Dune and Twilight. Wait, let me check my notes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a writer, not a speaker. Dune and Twilight are my movies I'm going to watch later. Dune Imperium and Twilight Imperium.
Yeah, that was an attempt at a joke. It wasn't that funny. Now, before we dive in...
I didn't write it out.
I do have to acknowledge, first off, this awkward guy sitting next to me is going to be the lead Quackalope writer. If you swing over to quackalope.com, you can find a lot of the articles that you're doing over there.
Most all of them.
Yeah.
Most all of them.
The vast
I think
majority
all of them.
I'd say,
I think all of them.
Well, yeah, you definitely publish
Some
all
of
there.
them.
And we are not at my home studio.
We're at my studio.
This also isn't my format. In fact, this format, Play This Not That, I have to give credit to a young man named Alexander Sender Radcliffe III.
I've heard of him.
Board Game Co. Swing over to his channel if you want to dig into his video series and everything he has going on over there. His daughter even drew me an adorable little Quackalope, which is going to be kind of our, it's going to be hanging somewhere in the studio when I get back home.
You should frame it.
But, all that being said, you're clicking on this because you thought to yourself, are they comparing Dune Imperium and Twilight Imperium because the title Imperium is in there?
That is the surface level reason why I decided to do it, and I have no reasoning other than that.
Devin claimed he could do this. He was even analyzing some elements of this, and I thought to myself, yeah, I mean, either he's fired or this will be an interesting video. Let's start with the framework for why
Are you able to fire me?
Why you think these two...
I don't think you can fire me.
You do have access to the website. Yeah. You do have back-end access.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's
We're going to
look at Dune Imperium and Twilight Imperium.
Can you, let's, right from the start, can you justify, for a Play This Not That, we want two comparable games? Why do you think these are comparable?
I think that they both, thematically and mechanically, incorporate a lot of different stuff together that maybe on the surface or instinctively someone doesn't necessarily think about.
Okay.
However, they have a lot more in common than you, and maybe Alex, or anyone might think. And I believe that if you like one, you might also be interested in the other, whichever direction that goes. If you came with Twilight Imperium first, or if you came with Dune Imperium and are thinking about maybe heading the other direction in terms of the games that you play.
Okay. So, here's my thought.
Sure.
Let's set up what these games are.
Okay.
Dune Imperium. Give me a brief overview of what exactly you're doing in this game. This is going to be a deck builder, worker placement. Just came out over the course of 2020.
Yep.
With a few other titles that kind of lined that up. We have some more coverage of it, but what's the primary conceit of what you're doing in this game?
Okay, so you kind of focused on the mechanics of it, which is why it always gets the comparison to games like Lost Ruins of Arnak and Endless Winter. But in the game itself, you are focused within the land of Arakat. You're on the spice world, and you are in a fractured or conflicting empire.
Sure.
And you're playing as different pieces of that, like nobility or outside exiled warriors, people of the sand, and all of these different factions are fighting with each other for supremacy. So it's kind of like the typical vacuum of power or wrestling of power if it already exists.
Yeah, it's going to operate primarily off of a I'd say lighter deck building system where you're going to be getting your hand of cards that's going to generate resources and locations where you can place your workers. You'll then be placing your workers down, either changing and exchanging influence, establishing yourself in your position on a battle track that resolves at the end of each cycle, and pushing up a victory point track trying to get to the very top. There's going to be a lot of resource crunch. There's going to be a decent bit of sort of hand management or card play at hand. And there's, I'd even say, some strategic... Not bluffing or negotiation, but there's definitely an element of where are you going to push, where are you going to fight for resources.
The cards that you play determine where you can go, and so it's always a matter of trying to figure out how can I use my cards to go where I need to while also not being blocked or inhibited by the choices of other players that can stop you potentially.
Twilight Imperium. What is Twilight Imperium? First off,
it's almost the exact same thing as Dune Imperium.
7 times the size.
Yeah. It's bigger. It's bigger. I think it's just the components are bigger. Honestly, could we edit and cut and just use, say, Dune Imperium, and then we just copy and paste the same
just
video?
both of them?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we'll see. We'll see how similar they are. What are you doing in this game?
So in Twilight Imperium, it's a little bit grander. You're not focused on one planet.
It's a galaxy.
Yeah, you're focused in a galaxy. It's got 17 different races in the main base. This is the 4th edition. It's kind of, Fantasy Flight Games. It's their big honkin' name that everybody knows.
And
Twilight
no
Imperium.
one has played.
I've played it quite a bit. I love it.
Okay.
It's hard to get to the table because it takes so long. If people play it frequently and know all of the rules and have a good consistency in which they get it to the table, you could probably play it in 4 or 5 hours.
Main mechanics and systems at play. What are you doing throughout the course of the game? I know from Space Cats and Peace Turtles, there's a ton of over the head, over the table, bluffing, negotiation, conversation between players, but when you boil it down to the base bottom of the game,
you're objective hunting.
Okay.
So a lot of games that look like this, or maybe people's impression of games like this, is that it's all about building up this massive force, getting area control in the space hex tiles that are there, and then dominating conflict and influencer control of what you're doing. However, you don't really have a huge victory track in a game like this. You don't have a cycle that you go around the entire board on. It's not based off of necessarily player elimination. You win by getting objectives, and those could be obtuse in terms of particular scenarios that you have to set up in order to achieve them, or they could be conflict based. But what it means is you can't be the winner by just necessarily being the strongest. You have to be the smartest in terms of when do you want to get into a fight, when do you want to negotiate and barter and try to avoid a conflict, or push it onto another player in order to get something.
So, one last question, then we'll start going through Alex's kind of board game codes, play this, not that.
Yeah.
Sorry, he's been stealing
It's
my
Quackalopes, right?
Is it play this, not that? Is that what we're...
Play this, not that, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we'll start breaking through his play this, that, not that system.
Okay.
How do you justify comparing these again?
I think that Twilight Imperium is one of two things for people. Twilight Imperium is either intimidating or it's too burdensome.
Okay.
And by intimidating, I mean there's so many things going on, and the amount of time that you have to commit to it makes people not want to even engage with it or experience it for the first time if they haven't.
Okay.
And then people who have it and love it, like me, recognize that if you don't have a regular group and you have to schedule times, especially as you get older and you have kids and all and families and all that kind of stuff, if you love the game, it's still really hard to table.
Again, why are these comparable?
Because I think that the way that you feel while playing these games and the atmosphere or environment that it creates at the table are comparable, but Dune Imperium does it in a smaller package and in a little bit different way. And so I think that while... Those are my notes, man. You can't take notes from a writer.
I thought this was...
If I don't have those,
no.
I'm not a talker. I don't talk good.
This is the format. Yeah, why are these games comparable? And then we're going to go through, ease of learning and teach. So you're getting into that. Keep going. Be confident.
Okay,
yeah.
Confident.
Yeah.
Confident.
Speak confidently forward.
All right. So, which one are we doing?
Ease of learning and teach.
Ease of learning and teach. All right, we're moving into
That's
that
what
one.
you were just touching on. It was actually a pretty nice transition there. You were talking about how this one's kind of intimidating.
Did I ruin
box,
the transition?
And then this one over here does the same thing, has the same atmosphere and feeling.
I
It's
agree.
just you think it does it in a more accessible way.
Yes.
And we're trying to boil down if this is worth the price point and the time, when apparently you can just play Dune Imperium and forget all about Twilight Imperium.
It is.
You pointed at
both of those.
Okay.
Oh, I have to pick one at the end, don't I?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, I'll pick one by the end.
Ease of learning and teach.
Ease of learning and teach. So Dune has several different, pros in that section that make it more accessible. Number one, the time to play is much shorter. You're talking about a 60 to 90 minute game versus 4 hours, maybe if you're really, really tight and everybody knows the rules. But most of my games with Twilight Imperium are 8 to 11 or 12, which involves it's an extensive amount of time, but you kind of have to take a break because you've been sitting for 6 hours and you start to get numb. So it has a lot more front end or to get it to the table, But Dune Imperium is much shorter, and it even has the ability to play with a third faction if you only have 2 players, so you can augment it with the AI faction that's there. It has an app that you can use to access
So
the game a little
significantly
more
easier to
readily.
table.
Yeah, 100%.
Easier and better at a lower player count, because TI, you sort of want to play it at a higher player count.
Yeah, you get the scope of it a lot better.
TI is going to be harder to table. It's going to take longer to learn, longer to teach.
Yep.
If you have a dedicated group, it might get to the table once every quarter.
Yeah,
but that would be,
or more. I mean, some
people
get it weekly if they have the right group for it.
That would be a pretty remarkable group.
That would be. I mean, I would love to know that group and to get their emails.
Art and components.
Breaking
down both. Now you've argued that both are comparable in part due to the theme and the atmosphere that they're setting you in.
Yes.
A vacuum of power, 2 different factions or different factions kind of squabbling for positioning and control, a little bit of tactical resource management, a little bit of kind of quests or going after certain objectives, and then you mix in the constant state of war or battle that could influence or shift the tide of the game.
Yeah.
I think both games have those elements.
I'm gonna say yeah one more time.
Art and components. There's the opportunity.
Yeah,
there we are.
Okay.
Art and components, comparing the two of them.
So, initially, they seem completely on the opposite ends of the spectrum with what comes into the box in terms of mechanics, or not mechanics, but components. I will say that there is an upgrade pack that you can buy for this, which I've ordered already. I've pre-ordered it.
Sure.
Which, when you buy that, gets it close to the same price range, and maybe table presence.
What are we talking price point? I think we're 120.
So if you're lucky, you can get this on sale from like maybe 80 to 110 or something like that. But if you don't get it on sale, you're talking more like 120.
Okay. And we're talking...
I think it's 50 to 60. I mean, depending on like if you're getting it from like a friendly local game store.
Can we get a price check on Dune Imperium here?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, great. We'll figure out that price in just a moment. Art and components. So upgrade pack brings the price a little bit more equal.
Yeah, if you want to invest in that and get kind of the table presence.
I like the artwork in Dune Imperium. For the character cards, for everything else, it's sort of bland,
super bland.
And doesn't envelop you. TI is going to win on this one.
100%, 100%.
Flavor text, breakdown, beautiful artwork, incredible plastic ships and minis and factions that are moving across the board. It's just by far a better production.
Yeah, it's going to be $50 versus $130.
Talking 50 versus 130. And I would even argue that I see more evidence of that 130 existing in TI than I necessarily do the 50 that I'm putting into. Like, if I bought 2 of these, I still wouldn't feel like they were quite equal the production value.
Box size?
Because $100 is less than 130.
Yeah. So when you get down to the kind of brass tacks and the math of the art and components, I'm going TI all the way.
Yeah, no, if you're just talking about what it looks like on the table and what it feels like to play, Twilight Imperium wins, hands down. Unless I haven't got the upgrade pack yet, which is going to make that look a little purty.
You think so?
What's it including?
What's it bringing in?
It's got miniatures for every player and for all of the different factions. So instead, you kind of replace a lot of like faction alliance tokens with miniatures, and all of the people that you put into conflicts and stuff like that, like those warriors that you pull into the conflict from your different garrisons, those will be miniatures. And they also have a first player token that is a large sandworm. Which looks cool and is easy if you don't have a 3D printer. So all the people that I've seen have 3D printers, and they print off a really cool Dune first player marker. This is a relevant tangent, okay? I'm jealous. I'm not mad, I'm just jealous. But I'm going to have one soon. Theme is where I think
they're comparable.
Theme is where I think they start to
the nice thing about Quackalope is we at least recognize and identify that theme matters in games.
Theme matters, story matters. As someone who writes and reads and does stuff with words other than says
flavor
them
text,
well.
mechanic systems, beautiful art components, story, all of that is part of what envelops you into a game system. I would even argue to say that flavor text is the most important mechanic that has ever existed in a board game. We'll get into that sooner or later.
Am I contractually obligated to agree to that?
Yeah, there's some channels and communities that completely overlook theme. We don't do that here.
We also intentionally ignore.
You know what we also don't do?
What?
We also don't overlook reading flavor text.
Ooh.
So Dune Imperium. In all the known universe,
you started off really well.
There is no more precious resource than the spice melange. found only on the harsh desert planet of Arrakis, also known as
Are
Dune.
we proving his point right now?
Control of the spice is a focal point in the conflict among the great houses of the Imperium. In its pursuit, those vying for power seek alliances and support to secure their positions. The governing councils of Landesrad. That'll work.
Yeah, so
Flavor text.
let's stop. All right. This is the rules reference.
That's not going to work.
This document is the definitive source for all Twilight Imperium 4th edition rules.
Oh, I love this flavor text.
Before using this document, players should read and understand the rules presented in the Learn to Play booklet.
Love that. Love that. So, unlike...
I guess Dune wins right there. I mean,
it does.
If we're just comparing those.
Twilight Imperium is going to be way more immersive, way more set in theme and style. It's got a lot more like flavor text for each character creation. This has a whole book that it's based off of, and I think it is one of the few properties that has done the books justice in terms of getting it to the table and the feeling that it evokes and the landscape and sort of that conflict. I just don't know.
To me though, theme also has to include setting and what is the like narrative context of the games.
I mean,
I think that those
just
do
like a cross of like high and low sci-fi fantasy.
But this is combat, intrigue, and politics on a macro level, and this is on a micro level.
Yep.
You have a very similar thing going on if you start to kind of like tease what's actually happening. You have political infighting, and while you don't really have as much of a negotiation set up mechanically as you do in Twilight Imperium, there is this sense of vying for power and playing different nobles or factions off of each other, like when you're trying to get the alliances on the left side of the board, and you're trying to use that to influence how you move and how you aggressively work against what other players are doing. And so I think that that's really interesting. And this is just a larger version of it, and mechanically they do have something that allows you to get more of that story by having actual negotiations in the game. But I mean, they're both sci-fi. They both have the grand scale of like sci-fi, infighting and combat. You're giving me a smirk. Am I not doing it to a point that you think it's achievable?
We're getting to the end of the video.
We haven't even talked about mechanics. That's the whole reason I wanted to bring this.
Here's the last thing. Yeah, mechanics. Where are they comparable? Which one does those systems better?
So, first off, I wish we would have started with mechanics, because I feel like you've been just making a checklist and giving me that smug grin this whole time as you're like, he couldn't do it, he can't do it, and I don't like that. But the thing that I do like are the mechanics in both of these games. So, in Dune Imperium and Twilight Imperium, one reason that I was immediately engrossed in what this does, I haven't played Lost Ruins of Arnak, I've backed Endless Winter, so I don't have the personal experience to compare this to those. All I'm saying is that in Dune Imperium, I love the small point track.
Okay.
And to me, it is reminiscent of the objective hunting, which is the only form of points in Twilight Imperium, specifically because it makes every gain or loss feel immensely personal to what you're trying to achieve.
You're talking about the fact in Dune Imperium that point track that you're pushing
that point track only goes to like
limit,
12.
It only goes to about 12, and you can gain and lose throughout the course of it. It's not like everyone's just pushing up. If something shifts, if you lose a battle, if house fights,
if someone takes the
more
political
influence,
alliance away from you,
then you're going to be going down your track.
You're going to be going down,
all these things kind of balanced in the perfect order for you to collectively win.
Because I play plenty of games that have a 0 to 100 point track that you have the markers or you flip the token to indicate that you're past that, and so people are like, oh yeah, it's 0 to 100, but I'm going for 250 this game. Like it's to me that means that the weight or value of each point gain is less, because you're like, oh, I just got 30 points, but someone else got 47.
Sure.
So how do you like conceptualize what does that 30 mean to what I achieved versus their, like, it's harder to understand or recognize the weight of any type of gain.
So the feeling of victory point objectives in both
when
games,
you
feel...
get points in these, when you steal that political alliance right out from underneath someone, or over here when you get that secret objective comboed with a public objective that's out there, and you get like that 2 or 3 point game. It feels huge. It feels so satisfying as a gamer, and I think that this accomplishes that same feeling from this and from Forbidden Stars and other games that have you focus on less, makes me feel more as a gamer in terms of reward. And so I think that is very, very satisfying. And then also, you have to balance mechanically the push for combat versus the push for non-aggressive maneuvers.
Yeah.
In this, everything is split between, you have the conflict, which will happen at the end of every turn.
And you decide how much you want to be involved in
and
that.
you want to, how much are you going to invest in conflict?
When are you going to invest?
And is it going to give you rewards that will allow you to inform the rest of your strategy, or is it going to be the rewards themselves that want you to go after?
And there's a give and take. You're not going to win every battle.
No.
You have to take a step back from something. You can't engage in every single one. It's strategic and it's purposeful when you do so.
And to me, Twilight Imperium does something similar, just on a much more involved scale. There's combat in this game, and you can, just like in Dune, win objectives and move forward inching closer to victory from combat. But it is not the only way to do something, and it's not necessarily valuable to only focus on combat. Because in Twilight Imperium, you really want to assess, if I engage with this person, number one, outside like meta gaming, are they going to get upset with me to the point where the rest of the 4 hours that we're sitting here, they're either upset or they're going to spend their entire time exhausting resources against you. So there is danger in engaging in combat. And if you expend all of your time in combat,
I might make sure you don't win the next 7.
Yeah, so it's a push and pull of figuring where do you allocate your resources and tactics in a way that gets you the best of both.
Yeah, we got there.
I mean, I'm inspired by your flavor text reading. So I think that there's a shifting scale of what you want to achieve in each of these games, just at a drastically different time length and way that the games go about it, even though overall feel and process to me is actually quite similar.
I hear you. I'm curious.
Does that compel you, or does that persuade you in any way that there is a line between these?
It's so hard for me because Twilight Imperium is such like a giant standout behemoth.
It's an epic experience.
And Dune Imperium,
it's a scrappy new underdog in the scene.
But it's just the scale. The scale is the thing that I just can't quite figure out or get over, but I don't know that you're wrong. And I'm curious to see what the audience thinks when it comes to the comparison and the breakdown. If there's,
if scale's the issue,
yeah.
Let me ask you something. If I had a bigger building here, and then I had a smaller copy of the building here,
smaller copy,
yep. Bigger copy,
yep.
Is there not, if they're the exact same building, is there not some comparisons that could be made despite scale?
Yep. Depends on what type of creatures are living in there.
What if they are cognizant creatures that love flavor text?
Then I think there is a comparison. I
feel like I've won.
At the end of the video, I believe the format does something along the lines of play this, not that.
Well, you made the format, right?
I did, yes. I believe so.
How do you not know your own format?
I'm figuring it out.
Oh, okay. So it's organic. It's organic. We're discovering it.
Play this, not that.
So, I came into the hobby with Twilight Imperium.
Okay.
I'm going to get the box back.
Yeah? You going to hold it a little bit?
I love this box. Until recently, I haven't even owned this box. I bought it, just a couple months ago.
Yeah.
It went on sale, and I was like, it's now time for me to grab it.
Apologizing to Twilight Imperium. Play this? Not that?
Play this.
What?
Not that.
What are you talking about?
Here's what I'm saying. Twilight Imperium has a loyal fandom. I'm a part of it.
Yeah?
But because of how little
this hurts me.
I know, it hurts me. But I have to decide. It says it at the end of the script.
Does. Yeah.
So this will get played so much more.
Okay.
Unless there is that group that we're talking about that I'm not sure exists.
I haven't ever found one.
I've never found one.
Yeah.
I would love to find one, but in the real world, when I can play games frequently every week, play this. No, it's hard for me to say not that.
I think you're wrong. Dune Imperium's fine. It's a fine game. It does some systems really good. I would even give you that there's elements of Dune Imperium that give the same atmosphere.
Did I make more of an argument than you thought I would?
You made slightly more of an argument than I thought you would.
Slightly more. Well, you said at the beginning that I wasn't going to be able to make an argument, so slightly more is not much of a win.
I have had one experience with TI.
That's it?
And I would trade...
I've played this like over half a dozen times.
And I would trade all of my Dune Imperium experiences.
Wait, how many is that?
That's like 7.
Oh, wow. Wow.
No, it's a lie. It's like 4.
Have you been...
I just said
4's not bad.
I said a number. I believe I've played Dune Imperium 4 times. I would trade all 4 of those for one of these. I would go up to 10. I would trade 15.
Here's the issue, though. With the reality of how much that's getting to the table, you just multiplied 4 by 0.
I think
at least I get a game played.
I think you should play Twilight Imperium because even if it is a once-a-year game, even if it's a once-a-year game on a good year,
it's so good.
It's so good. It's so immaculate. It is just this immersive giant space opera. But the thing that I think might be intriguing would be for the people that haven't taken the time to dig into TI, who have a group who are enjoying Dune Imperium. There's maybe a pathway towards...
that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to bring this up. Because if you haven't played Twilight Imperium, like you were saying, you want to pick that, you choose that, not that. I understand 100% where you're coming from. But so many people watching or in the community haven't played that and maybe won't ever play that. I feel...
But they should.
They should.
Yeah, they should.
And maybe they will if they play this, not that first. Can we change the title to play this, not that first?
Let me know. Did Devin, first off, do a decent job on his first video on our channel? Second off, do any sort of job justifying his argument between the two? Did he overlook anything, or was this a completely ridiculous video that for some reason you watched 26 minutes of?
26 minutes?
Yeah. And
I don't think people want to look at me for that
third
long.
off, let me know down below. Play this, not that.
Alex, what would you pick?
Yeah, what's thoughts?
I've only really played Dune.
Also, did you see this?
He just made him a point.
It's gorgeous.
It's lovely. Your daughter drew that for me.
It's
fantastic.
It's wonderful.
We'll see you next time.